Amit, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, Amit. I am Anjan Bose. I am the former president of Philips in consumer lifestyle and healthcare, and founding secretary general of Nat Health. Now I'm in advisory roles in quite a few eminent organizations. Amit, this is not for you because you and I know about each other very well. And here is Amit Mookim. Amit is, in my opinion, to me, he's next gen. So I'll call him one of the brightest, most charming, and extremely successful next generation leaders in healthcare. As far as I'm concerned, Amit, you are next generation with long way to go. It has always been a pleasure interacting with you both personally and professionally. So it is a pleasure for me, and I'm thankful to Voice of Healthcare to give that opportunity for interacting with you. And for the viewers, this will be just an, I would use an informal word, a bindas conversation between two healthcare colleagues and two friends, if I may say, who are continuously trying to learn from each other. So, Amit, I think the whole world knows that now you are managing director of a much bigger company in India, but I think viewers would be interested in knowing a bit about you, and if you could take just a couple of minutes talking about yourself, and then we'll kick off with some conversation, some questions, and exchanges. Up to you, Amit.
Thank you, Anjanda. And I will take the privilege and liberty of calling you Anjanda, which I have done
Of
for
course,
last 15 years, right?
honored,
Very good
honored.
Very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me on this conversation. It's a privilege and a pleasure to speak to Anjanda on this. And what we thought was we will keep it as candid and as if the two of us are sitting and having a conversation, which is
Yeah,
completely candid and frank, so that this is with all of you shared in the way it is. I am based in Mumbai, and I run the India business of a company called IQVIA. We are a global healthcare information, research, and technology and analytics organization. We serve government, pharma, medical devices, and hospital segments across a host of services and solutions. And in the current situation, of course, have had the privilege and to support many of the initiatives that are
sure.
going on both in India as well as to support the pandemic globally. I think
Sure.
that the time has come for healthcare, and I think this initiative by Voice of Healthcare is a great one to have such open conversations. Over to you, Anjan.
Thank you. Amit, talking about government, I think we are all still, in the next hour after the usual exciting budget speech of the FM. I'm sure this conversation cannot go without getting a mention from you about what you think about the budget. But we can talk about the budget, over the spread over various questions. But if you want to quickly give your thoughts about any salient point about the union budget, that will be nice. Since it just,
Yes.
just happened.
Oh, absolutely, Anjana. And I was actually, I was glued in to listen to, all the points that were being mentioned, and it looked to me that it was more a healthcare budget than a finance budget,
Yes,
which
yes,
which is not surprising and very welcome.
sure,
Two or three things I took away. I think
sure,
one is the support that the government is going to talk about and creating emergency centers as well as national disease control of virology, as
sure,
well as creating the R&D corpus, which is so important for a sector like healthcare is welcome. That
sure,
was one.
sure,
I
sure.
think the second one, which I took away, was the emphasis or the allocation on nutrition as well as wellness. And the
Mhm.
government has really increased
Sure,
that.
sure,
However, I feel that that needs to also have strong participation of the
yeah,
industry as well. And we can talk about that
sure,
later. I think that
sure,
was the second piece. And I think the third piece the government talked about, and this came in on the tax front, was
sure.
how some of the charitable institutions would
Sure.
get a little more leeway in
Hmm.
operations from a
Hmm.
scale
Hmm.
perspective. So overall,
Yeah.
I'm actually quite encouraged by what
Sure.
how the government has thought about the budget.
Yeah, you and I have chatted about it many times. We always used to wonder earlier years, that how can we bring healthcare more to the forefront. We would hear about automobiles and cement and IT and so on and so forth. It's unfortunate that it took a pandemic like Corona to bring healthcare really to the forefront, of the not only Indian government or Indian ecosystem, but all over the world. But better late than never. I think also there is an increase possibly of budgetary allocation for healthcare, which is a good sign.
Yes.
And of course, now, as they say, the result of how we allocate and how we spend will be interesting to observe. But one comment about this very interesting thing that you mentioned about wellness. To me, as we have also discussed, that possibly one of the disruptive metamorphoses that will happen in healthcare. I mean, just checking, am I audible to you, clear?
Yes. Yes. Very
Okay,
clear.
okay, okay. So, is that all these decades we have been into curative healthcare, where curing disease has been the essence of healthcare. Now, last few years, I think there have been more emphasis on preventive and wellness, on yoga, and even a Ayush ministry has been formed to give focus. So we say that possibly that's one of the metamorphoses and disruptive transformation that will happen. More emphasis from curative to preventive and wellness, so that disease doesn't happen at all. And the other, my personal opinion, perhaps, is more emphasis on home care. We have seen in Ayushman, in the last 1 year, how the best of cities like your city and my city, Mumbai and Delhi, have struggled to cope up at times when the peak number of cases were there. So possibly the second disruptive transformation that can happen, I was thinking, is migration to more home care. Any thoughts from your side relating to this and what you mentioned, government's focus of wellness, which you like in the budget?
Dada,
What is it?
you have raised a very interesting point on home care. And let me expand that concept a little bit.
Okay, something went off, I think. Okay.
So
Uh, uh, hmm.
you
Please.
mentioned home care, Dada, and I
Right.
feel that with the technology disruption that is happening
Right.
and the emphasis on self care that is taking place,
Right.
the drive towards doing more and more care out of a hospital setting, whether it's at home or by the patient, will have
Right.
to be emphasized. And the
Sure.
pandemic showed us that any number of hospital beds is not enough for a situation,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
I think that is one. Coming back, I feel there are two things that are very important to make this happen. One is behavior change and awareness, which I feel is a strong responsibility of the state. How do you drive more awareness? But I think
Sure.
the implementation is where both the economic machinery and the government machinery need to work
Sure. Together.
together.
Yeah, no, very, very, very correct point. So, like, if you see, we used to say 5 years back, that Indian healthcare is an inflection point. And from that inflection point, perhaps we have moved forward in the last half a decade. Various developments have taken place, but we still are at a point where India is still having the dual disease burden. Like, of course, we have largely been able to solve the diseases like TB and others, but NCD, it's still there. The diseases like diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular have not been able to sort of take away the attention needed on the, if I may say, the original area. So India is still struggling from the dual disease burden. So coupled with it is this learning, as you said, Corona taught us a lot, like digital health and stuff like that. So a general question I'll throw at you, and please take time to share with the audience here and me. What do you think now is the direction that Indian healthcare will go, should go, and what do you foresee? How can we bring more awareness? we work together? Will collaboration play a major role? So just give a broad your response to a broad portfolio on the prognosis of future. You do it from IQVIA, great data analysis, and I mean a lot of forecasting comes out of your outstanding capability in doing that. So please, I think the audience will be very happy to hear from you for the next few minutes. Your thoughts on future.
Sure, sure. So, Dada, if we look at from a market perspective, and here I'd like to quote a number which is $20 billion,
Sure,
which is the size of the pharmaceutical drug sales,
sure,
right?
sure,
Now,
sure.
and this is a very interesting thing we see because it's broken between drugs for acute and drugs for
Sure.
chronic, which we track, right? Now, we saw
Absolutely.
that in the pandemic, there was a huge drop because of lockdown and supply chain in March and April, right? But then there was a huge pickup on the chronic side. So all
Correct.
these drugs and the market also changed. I mean, today, if you look at the demand which used to come from the six metros, the entire demand has become widespread because of migration.
Sure, sure,
So one thing that has happened is new markets in India got created. Second thing that has
sure,
happened is that chronic disease has continued to grow, and acute actually we saw has degrown little bit because of better behavior and habit
sure,
formation because of
sure,
sanitization if it sticks through. That was number one. Number two, if we saw today the doctors today had a situation where they had to move to a digital means of communication. So 70% of them went to WhatsApp and
sure,
teleconsultation
sure,
and everything else,
sure,
right? And the other interesting thing that has happened is there has now become a connection between the doctors in the rural areas and the urban areas.
sure,
So there is a lot of second opinion that has started to generate. And
sure,
I see that there is a fundamental shift that today a
sure,
patient in Ahmednagar does not need to travel to Delhi. He can
sure,
actually visit a GP in Ahmednagar who will be connected to a specialist in Delhi. And that is a
sure,
win-win situation. The
sure,
third thing that has happened, very, very interesting, is that
sure,
the supply chain actually got disrupted and moved forward some leaps because people understood that the need for technology and the need for being able to track the movement of a material in supply chain is so important, especially in
sure,
pharmaceuticals. And the other thing is how much dependency you have, which is where
sure,
I welcome the whole PLI scheme and the API for government, right? The
sure,
fourth thing and
sure,
the last point that I feel is that today the patient has come into the center of managing their care because
sure,
this in the hand of the patient is a wealth of information, diagnostics, and as well as the e-commerce and treatment, right? And I feel that this will
Amit, you are
play a
still
big
there?
role in the way. Yes, I'm here, Dada. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I am here. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Um, Anjanda, Khushbu can hear me. I just wanted to check if you can hear me.
Yeah, I think something happened. Can you see me and hear me?
I can see you. I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay. I sorry. I think there's some disruption for a few seconds.
No worries, Anjanda. Can you hear me okay now?
Is okay. I can hear you. Can you?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you, Anjanda. So last point I was
There's
just
a little bit of
mentioning, Anjanda,
echo,
where I
but
lost you.
yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, the last point I was mentioning, Anjanda, which I
Hmm.
lost you, is the power of this in becoming a channel for healthcare.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we also did a lot of research in developed markets, and there we saw that the one segment that moved into very rapid technology adoption was elderly patients. So elderly
Yeah.
patients, uh, adoption of home care as well as e-commerce for buying medicine actually was the fastest. Teleconsultation
Sure.
moved 800% in the US. So I think that in India as well, these are the tectonic shifts that have actually taken
Sure.
place in the healthcare. Now,
No, I mean, I think geriatric care will be very much impacted by digital health in future. So yes.
correct. One more thing that I wanted to mention here, which is the innovation. And I was speaking to the leader of a very large fast food chain. And why I'm sharing this example is so interesting for healthcare. Their business
Right.
pivoted to a drive-through model. So their
Right.
fast food chains actually they converted to drive-throughs. And I was thinking
Okay.
today there is a big issue with patients, getting into hospitals, having the confidence. Why can't
Sure.
hospitals create drive-through models in some
Hmm.
way?
Hmm.
Right, so that they in a way encourage patients not to get exposed to the extent possible to the rest of the infrastructure.
No, that's a very good point.
So over to you, Dara.
I heard. I think in this. Amit, can you hear me, or there is some echo? Because I'm getting some echo.
I can hear you
Are you
very
getting
well.
some? Okay, because there's some echo suddenly that's coming. So I saw that quite a few of the leading diagnostic centers did that,
Yes,
and that was very interesting. They were advertising also. People didn't want to come to home for collecting, so I think it was very interesting. So, Amit, if,
absolutely.
from IQVIA, what would you like to, sort of do for the next few years?
So I
How
think
would you ride
one
the post-corona wave, if I may say?
yes. So Dada, from our perspective, we service a lot of pharma and life sciences industry as well, right?
Right.
And we think that the model for them has changed
Right.
forever because of the way the engagement with the doctors and the doctors and medical reps and the doctors and patients have changed. And the need for better quality data, the need for better quality technology has become much more paramount. If you look at it in India itself, there are 5 to 6 thousand new brands that get launched in the industry every year. Right now, during the pandemic, that did not happen, and there are more than three and a
Yes.
half, 4 lakh reps that meet doctors. Now, with the whole model changing,
Sure.
there is a huge difference in the way the market is going to change.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think our responsibility is to drive the right change in the market. So that is
Sure.
number one. I think number two is it has been proven that there is a very strong linkage between lifestyle prevention and how you need to manage the behavior and the journey of the patient to understand how the lifestyle is going to work through.
Sure.
And I think our capabilities in longitudinal data analytics, our
Hmm.
capabilities in understanding how you bring the various elements of patient data, clinical data, and drug data together is going to be
Sure.
extremely critical to take decisions around that. And
Sure.
last point is today, I think India is at the inflection point of launching and scaling Ayushman Bharat, right? Where
Sure.
technology is
Sure.
going to play a big role.
Yes.
Because if we do not connect, and we saw it in the pandemic, Dada, that
Sure.
the first 3 4 months, there was absolute vacuum of data. We did not know
Absolutely.
where patients were going. We didn't know what facilities we had, right? And there were too many unknowns. And a large part of that unknown we have realized needs to be covered with a platform where data can be shared
Sure.
and democratized. And
I
I
mean,
think we need
digital cannot work without data, authentic
absolutely.
data.
I mean,
Please
you've
carry
seen
on.
it, and I would like to hear your views. Whether you've been in Philips, you've run and seen global systems at Philips. You've seen the whole transition of how Philips changed. Would love to hear your feedback as well, because see, you've been completely at that center there. What would you say here, Dada?
No, I would say that we are really going through, uh, Amit, the digital is going to take over healthcare in a way that none of us even imagined a couple of years back. You just ask anyone what is AI, what is ML, everyone will explain. A few years back, AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning were just fads. So I think that there is need for a lot of awareness generation in future, in patients, in paramedics, in biomedics, technologists. They must understand the direction that they have to be part of,
Yeah.
because if they don't understand, they can't deliver. Secondly, like you said in the beginning, the patients, they themselves also have to be aware of what they are into. I used to wonder why telemedicine did not pick up the way we expected 15 or 10 years back. So I asked a few top doctors, I'm not naming them, you know all of them. I asked some patients, healthcare is very touch and feel. They said, no, we want to go and see, sit across the table. So I think if you ask me, one big disruption that has happened in the mindset of the patients also is that it's okay to be consulting remotely, as especially when you know the doctors, the background. So I think like this, there is a global technology revolution that will impact healthcare. Diagnostic, for example, I am actually right now immersed in projects which are looking at supply chain completely differently, much more digital focus than before. Um, I don't know to what extent things like robotic surgery will evolve. So I think in every which way, there is going to be a lot of awareness generation and learning needs for everyone. So I will sort of say this much because it's a vast subject. And so, Amit, what is, you have been personally one of the most passionate colleagues in the industry as far as innovation is concerned. I know, I think you are the current president of Thai Mumbai chapter. Am I correct?
Yes,
So,
that's right.
for as long as I know, you have always, talked about startups, support they need. Now, as the saying goes, invention comes out of necessity. So a lot of disruptions and innovations have gone hand in hand. What would you say, both from your personal point of view and IQVIA's point of view, how much innovation and startups will play a role in
Yeah.
future of healthcare?
So Dana, this I will tell you from three, four dimensions and with complete
Sure,
candidness, given
sure,
my passion for this. I think
sure.
one thing is that healthcare startups are slightly unique from others because there is a huge value of death with those startups. It is
And
very, very tough to set up a
yes,
startup and commercialize it,
yes,
especially in the domain of healthcare,
yes, yes,
because you have established technology and you have a doctor who has a mindset of doing a certain way, which he needs to
yes.
understand what is the benefit and whether the patient will benefit or not, and that needs a lot of conviction as well as
Sure,
right communication. Number one.
sure.
Number two is, I think a startup, when it looks like anything, they need to look at the three words which I call ICU: interoperability, content, and user interface. And this is where I think Indian companies need to really up their game when they
Sure,
compete, because today, with pandemic or without pandemic, we are playing in a global field.
sure.
Nothing stops a technology health tech company from the US to come and do the same thing that an Indian
Absolutely.
company is doing. And
Yes.
that is where I think it is very, very important to understand, to think Indian but act global.
Sure,
And
sure,
one of our objectives has really been how we upgrade the thinking, the design, the exposure of some of our Indian startups in the global arena. Because
sure, sure,
if we don't do that, we will not be able to develop healthcare. So that's number two. I think number three
sure.
is that a sector like healthcare needs very active support, mentoring from both academia, research, and corporate
Yes.
sector. And these three need to go hand in hand. You see, Israel has benefited so much because the scientific officer gives a grant
Sure.
to the startup without any questions asked, and they have 5,500 incubators and accelerators all spread across the country.
Sure.
We can count the number we have on our hands, and that is where I think there is a big challenge. And today,
Absolutely.
the ability for a startup to commercialize something in the corporate sector is not easy. He has
Absolutely.
to go through so many hoops.
Sure.
So I think there is a mindset change we need to have and enable some of these things. I am speaking passionately on this subject, Dada, because I think our Indian entrepreneurs have great potential, but unfortunately, they spend the wrong energy on the wrong things, and they end up
Absolutely.
being very frustrated because they don't get the breakthroughs.
Very, very well said. Unfortunately, in spite, I think the present government has tried by
Yes.
launching Startup India and trying to support them, but long way to go. Because
Yeah.
these youngsters should not spend their energy on wrong things. They should spend time on creativity, finding
Yes.
innovative solution. So, in this context, do you think that
I'll add
collaboration?
one more point, Dada.
Please,
Sorry.
please, please,
Can I add
please,
one more point here?
please,
And this is
please.
a philosophical point. In India, failure is looked down upon for startups. In the US, failure of startups is celebrated.
Absolutely,
And that is a mindset
absolutely,
change that needs to
absolutely.
happen. Sorry, please go ahead.
Very well said. No, no, it's very good. I'm reminded of what Thomas Edison said when someone asked that you tried 100 different types of filaments and only one produced this breathtaking discovery, invention called light. And he said, but the world learned that those 99 will not be working. And that's a great learning. So, I think what Steve Jobs said,
Absolutely.
stay hungry and stay foolish. So possibly the youngsters have to stay foolish to learn and hungry, but we, including the government, have to support them. So in this context,
Absolutely.
Amit, what do you think? I think you and I have again discussed this a lot. Collaboration. You said IC square. I said C
I
square.
see.
I some other weeks back. So collaboration, commitment, and innovation. This is what I said in a forum. What do you think of collaboration? Do you think the private sector plays a major role in Indian healthcare? Government plays their role. The two have tried to work together in schemes like Ayushman Bharat.
Yes.
You think there's a long way to go still? We have to work hard to make this happen?
So I think,
Collaboration?
Dada, the last 1 year has been encouraging with the NHA's market access
Correct.
program, with
Correct.
all the great work
Correct.
IRAC is doing. We have
Correct.
taken the steps there. But
Sure.
I think at the same time, what needs to happen is, the corporate sector needs to open up their incubators and accelerators and work closely with some of the donors as well as industry bodies
Absolutely.
and get these
Sure.
startups in the way, right? And I
Sure.
think that
Sure.
the government should maybe look through how they can subsidize or even give some
Sure.
exemption to certain grants that some of these companies can provide for this
Yes.
innovation.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think
I
that
am
is needed.
associated like you. One of the advisory work I do is with India Accelerator.
Wow.
It's brilliant to interact with these innovating youngsters, but it's heartbreaking to see the struggle that they have to go through to raise some funds or to get introduction to hospitals to start a pilot project. So I think you and I have a common cause. Some of us should get together and work to promote innovation and support
Absolutely.
these young, brilliant entrepreneurs to contribute to cause of Indian healthcare,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
Amit, we have, I
Because
think, as per
one
the
point, yeah,
please,
one point I'll make
please,
here is, and this is
please,
for the investors, we need to understand that healthcare will have a slightly longer time and journey
yes,
of incubation. We cannot
right,
expect healthcare to have a disruptive, way to return capital. And that has to
absolutely,
be kept in mind.
absolutely. Yes, very. See, this is another relevant point. There is so much to talk about. A payback period in India for a hospital in India is 7 to 10 years, and far longer than other sectors. So, um,
Yeah.
I mean, healthcare, Amit, you and I can talk for the next couple of hours, and still the subjects won't end. Unfortunately, all good things have to be a 30-minute conversation. And uh, Amit, you are able to hear me still?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you, Dada. It was lovely to talk
Hello?
to you, and I know we have to end this, but I can hear you, Dada. I can hear you.
Okay. Amit, I think we have about a minute. So I wanted to get your quick views on a few things, rapid fire style. Your
Okay.
one word on lockdown, experience lockdown.
Resilience.
Excellent. I think we have all shown that, and tremendous learning. You are brilliant. Young India, you are one
Respon-
of them compared to me.
responsible.
Fantastic.
Responsible.
I think I hope the viewers are picking up these pearls from Mr. Amit Mookim. Technology,
Future.
technology, future.
Future.
You heard, viewers, lockdown has taught us a lot of resilience. Young India are they are the responsible, uh, responsibility needed from them to build future, and technology is also future. So, Amit, it is brilliant to talk to you as always. I hope VOH gives us more opportunity to discuss.
Absolutely.
And I
Likewise.
really want to conclude by saying that in my 4+ decades of being in various sectors, running Philips and other good organizations, trying to build Nat Health to the level it is today, I have had the opportunity to come across many colleagues in the healthcare who are very good, brilliant, committed, and you are absolutely, to me, one of the very best that I have come across. And also because you not only have a brilliant mind, but you have a good heart. We need leaders like you for the next couple of decades to drive Indian healthcare. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank you,
Amit,
Dada.
and God bless you.
Thank you, Dada.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.